What's up, Keep Pounding Nation? We're back today with another video. Keep pounding! So today we're going to be talking about the left tackle position and why it's the most important position for us to draft in 2020. But before we do that, I'd like for you to hit that like button, sub button, and hit that bell so you don't miss any new content. And leave a comment if you feel so inclined to do so. So let's dive into it. So I have prepared a chart. I've written everybody's name on this team that's a regular starter on the chart, and I've circled left tackle position. Now, as we go through this chart, I'm going to circle more and more and more, and I'm going to show you through 2016 through present how our team is degraded year by year, and you're going to see exactly how much of a train wreck this team has become in a process of 4 years. So let's dive into it, shall we? And this started in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 50, where they discovered that left tackle was our one weakness. And at the time, we had every position covered. We had depth. We had everything we needed. You know, we drafted Vernon Butler. We got Bradbury. We got all kinds of weapons on this team in 15. So, what happened? Left tackle happened. Our management happened. They failed to draft a left tackle up until 2019 draft. Now, here's what occurred in between there. We ended up with Daryl Williams switching over to left tackle. That became a problem because he was doing okay at right tackle, but he got switched over to left and did not do well at all. That left a vacuum at right tackle. You know, we had depth, but it wasn't strong depth. So now, right tackle becomes our second problem. So that's 2 out of the 5. Right off jump. That's 2016. Going into 2016 season. Now, mind you, we're still running with the 4-3 defense. So, what goes on from here is KK gets injured. Thomas Davis ends up at the Chargers. We end up putting in Van Rotten, Paradis, and Trey Turner in 2019. Now, our line wasn't that bad before 2019. I wouldn't venture to say it was terrible, but it definitely wasn't good. But once Ryan Kalil left, everything became a train wreck on the offensive line. He was the anchor of the offensive line. People don't fully understand what Ryan Kalil was able to do on that line. He was able to make sure our offensive linemen were in the right positions, they were in the right spots, they followed the right lanes, they blocked the right people. He was the signal caller for the offensive line. He was the chess master for the offensive line. When that disappeared, everything disappeared. Now, you have Taylor Moton that did well in training camp, did well in preseason, and would have been my choice to take over at center until we got Matt Paradis settled in and handling center position well enough. You know, switch him out every once in a while, every few games or so. You know, just give them both experience at that position. Taylor Moton was ready. He held his own through through training camp drills, and through preseason. All 4 teams. He held his own when he was in. He was supposed to be a depth man. Now, what changed is we had a bunch of injuries on the line. Coaching did not do a good enough job. This is Ron Rivera's crew. Remember that. Remember that. All these Ron Rivera loyalists, remember that. So we ended up with Paradis. Paradis did not do well. Because of the issues on the line, Van Roten had to step up and handle left tackle duties as well as his own duties over there, helping him out. So that became a problem. Now, the only man that did not become a problem on this offensive line was Trey Turner. And Trey Turner was out for a little bit too. Keep that in mind. Now, we drafted Dennis Daly. Actually, we picked up Dennis Daly and we drafted Greg Little. Greg Little got hurt. And I believe one of the two of them had a concussion. I don't remember which one it was. But they were in concussion protocol forever. We'll talk about the medical staff later on. Because I want to do a whole separate video on that right there. But, yeah. So, the left tackle positions continue to be a problem. Little did solve it temporarily. I think Daly was an adequate sub-in, but he wasn't a permanent left tackle. That's my feelings on the matter. And I've said that before in previous videos, I believe. If not, I'm saying it now. So, Trey Turner goes to the Pro Bowl this year. I love the fact that he went to the Pro Bowl. That we had a representative there. Even though we had a garbage team this year. Because of injuries, because of all kinds of reasons. But, hey, I'm happy for him. I'm surprised we had a representative this year. If anybody should have been on that Pro Bowl field, it should have been Christian McCaffrey. He carried the entire team. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Trey Turner, only problem spot we don't have on the line. Out of the starters. Now, out of depth, I can't tell you. Because I haven't watched enough of the depth players on the offensive line to be able to tell you what we have and what we don't have. Because I haven't seen them. And we'll see those players again in preseason in 2020. So keep an eye on that. If you're watching on television, if you are actually going to the training camps, you'll get to see them in person and you'll get to see what I'm talking about in several of these videos that are coming in August. So, that being said, let's dive back in. Now, right now, we're just focused on the offense. Because it became apparent that this is where the infection started with this team. And I'm calling it an infection, and that's exactly what it is. So, you add on Samuel as a wide receiver. Now, he had his moments, I'll give you that. But he had trouble catching the ball in several of those moments as well. And to me, wide receiver became a problem spot at that point. You got Chris Hogan, who I would have preferred to see a lot more of in the West Coast, but he got injured and put on the IR. So, it is what it is. You fill in what you can, what you can't. That's the best you got. in 2019. Realistically, that's what we were looking at on offense. Um, I like DJ. I think we can build around DJ. And you've also got Greg Olson. Now, here's where things get complicated. Greg Olson is probably going to retire soon. Either this year or the next. Maybe in 2 years from now. We aren't sure, but somewhere in the next 5 years, he's going to retire. We know that for sure. We're pretty sure of that. I love Greg, but I wouldn't ask him to stick around, through a rebuild process. It's just not fair to him. He's put so many years into this franchise. He's had so many years of successful campaigns. He hurt his foot in 18 and 19. He was out in 19 as well. So, I can't ask him to stick around. It's unfair to Greg. I love you, dude, but it's unfair. So, Greg Olson retires. And we'll mark that as a problem spot as well going forward, because I don't think Ian Thomas is ready. Now, I said in a video in training camp that I thought Ian Thomas was ready. I stand corrected. Now I don't. After watching him play this year, now I don't. He dropped several passes this year, and part of that was on the quarterback overthrowing it, or underthrowing it, or throwing it 10 miles over his head. But, the rest of it was on Ian. I like Ian still. I think he's going to be the right man for the job eventually. I still have faith in him. I still think he can do it. But for now, he's not ready. So, tight end is a trouble spot. We need to draft a tight end in 2021. Right now, it's not an immediate problem. So, obviously the quarterback problem has been an issue. And we haven't even really used the fullback that much when we had one. So this is what your board looks like now after all of these changes. The ones in circles are the ones that we have trouble spots in. The ones that we have squares are the ones that we want to build around. And that's Christian McCaffrey, that's DJ Moore, and that's going to be Eric Reed on defense. And we're gonna keep going with that. And you'll see why I wrote the rest of this stuff on the board in a minute. But let's dive into the defense, shall we? Starting with the corners. Now, in 2018, both Bradbury and Dante went down. 2019, I believe one of the two went down, if not both, and we had trouble at corner. We had to bring in Ross Cockrell. We had to bring in Elliott. It was a mess. It was a mess. While I like those two as backups, I would not start them. There's a reason why they're second string. And I really love Bradbury and I love Dante Jackson. And I think they're solid guys to build around in this rebound. Moving on to defensive end. And we're going to go position by position here. Mario. Mario did an excellent job of getting pressure, but I don't think he got enough pressure to really make a difference in 2019. Now, before that, he was a workhorse. And you're starting to see how this team is degrading little by little every year. Mario, with the lack of discipline, with the lack of execution, with the lack of of being able to push that line, that strength, he's slowly started to degrade a little bit too. But he's still really, really good. And I still believe that he can be a rebuild cornerstone as well. So I'm gonna square that one. Uh, like I said earlier, KK got injured, so in comes Vernon Butler. Now Vernon Butler is a Gettleman pick, and Vernon Butler, he has his pluses, he has his minuses. I don't know. 2016, we got a good push in the line. 2017, it degraded a little bit. 2018, it degraded even more. And then finally, 2019, we got almost zero push at all for a good 3/4 of every game. And you'll see why in a minute. Poe did absolutely nada. I mean, he'll get a couple of tackles a game. Maybe he'll have one good game out of like 7, and then he'll do absolutely nothing. You know, he'll get one tackle, one sack, and then that'll be it. That'll be his contribution. That's not enough. That is not enough to propel this defensive line forward. It's not. I understand he was under pressure because KK was injured. I understand everybody's jobs were doubled up because of KK getting injured and Thomas Davis not being there. But that cannot continue. We've got to have the push on the line. So we got Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy. We thought, okay, all our problems at pass rushing should be solved till we get Gerald McCoy. He did good for a while, but he's not the answer. He's a temporary solution to a more permanent problem. So I'm going to say that yes, we can rebuild around him, but as far as keeping him, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. Do we want that money back to go into rebuilding, or can we continue to rely on him for one or two more years? You know, that's the big question there. So then Luke retires. Luke retires. So now that's 2 linebacker spots that we need to fill. Those are huge, huge, massive shoes that we need to fill. No one on this defense is smart enough, even remotely as smart as Luke and Thomas Davis. Not even close. Not even remotely close to that level. So what we need is a proper defense coordinator that can get it done, and Phil Snow is that guy. So Shaq says, I'm going to take over. Now Shaq, here's an interesting case. Shaq is really good at tackling. He's really good at getting the proper angles. He's really good at run stopping sometimes. And I say sometimes because we switched to a 3-4 last year. I say sometimes. But he was much better when we were in the 4-3. That system suits him better. But I still say he can't cover the bright side of a barn until the second, I want to say the last fourth of the game of the season, 2019 season. He was struggling from the word go. You know, as soon as he came up here, he just did not know where we were supposed to be sometimes, and we were in the wrong coverages, and part of that is on the coaching. A good chunk of it is, actually. But part of it is on him as well. So, I'm still going to say he's a solid rebuilder. Cornerstone rebuilder. But I don't think he's going to be the permanent answer over the course of 7 years. The next 7. So that brings us to Trey Boston. And you've heard me talk about Trey Boston a lot. You know, he's been that Jekyll and Hyde guy back there. And the first 2/3 of the season in 2019 and before that, what you saw was, what am I going to get out of him this game? Is it going to be the Jekyll or is it going to be the Hyde? You don't know. You don't know. But the last third of 2019, he stepped it up. I'll give him that. He stepped it up. He became that cornerstone that we need on defense. He didn't have a choice. Once Thomas Davis was gone, once KK was injured, Poe wasn't stepping up. We weren't getting pressure on the line. Shaq wasn't really getting it done either. Bradbury and Dante were on an island. He had to step up. He had no choice. And I don't like the fact that we have to make him step up with these types of situations. I don't like that. He should want to do that on his own. And that's coaching. That's 100% coaching. That's motivation, bro. So, I think for now, free safety is a trouble spot. For now. That may change. That may change. But for now, it's a trouble spot. And then we have Eric Reid. Eric Reid has tried to become the Superman of this defense with Luke. And all the responsibilities fell on him, Shaq, and Luke. And the 2 corners. And it just became a train wreck from that point on. Now, Eric Reid was the solution back in 17 and 18. But 19, he had to become Superman. In a 3-4 defense that did not support what he was able to do. It did not support his skill set. It did not support his abilities. And I have to tip my cap to the success he's had in 2019 because he has become the savior of this defense. When Luke was overworked, he was overtired, nothing going on there, you know. He even had to take plays off because he was just exhausted by the 4th quarter. Shaq had to fill in. Eric Reid had to fill in and do those duties and help out where they could. But, I mean, you saw the results of how many touchdowns we'd given up, and Luke was just not able to keep up anymore. He just was not able to do it, and he even admitted it to you in the retirement speech. In the video, he admitted it. And I have respect for that. It takes a big man with a big set of backbone to admit that in a retirement speech. That takes guts. So my respect to Luke for admitting when he knew that the league was getting faster, it was getting stronger, it was getting tougher, and he just could not keep up. Now, all of that being said, when your offense fails to move the chains under coaching, this is where coaching starts to really, really get affected here. You know, it began with coaching and the cycle ends with coaching. You've got Scott Turner trying to run the West Coast offense. Couldn't get it done. You got the prior offensive coordinators that could not get it done. Between 16 and now. Over time, you saw a lack of discipline. You saw a lack of execution. You saw a lack of motivation. And you saw a lack of strength. Finally, in 2019, this led to laziness, bad calling, bad play calling, and bad clock management between the years 2016 and 2018 by Ron Rivera. Now, you put this entire piece of puzzle together, what a mess. What a train wreck. This is what the full picture looks like after you're done. This is what it looks like. Matt Rhule, good luck to you. You just inherited a train wreck from heck. And I wish you luck. Because people don't realize how bad our situation is until they really flesh out the problems. And really start to dig into the picture as a whole. And put the pieces together. This is a slowly decaying team from 2016 to 2020. Slowly decaying in every aspect. Except for Trey Turner, DJ Moore, the two corners, Dante and Bradbury, Christian McCaffrey, and Eric Reed. Everywhere else, train wreck. Train wreck. So, there you have it. There's the full picture. I hope people now understand where we're at after looking at this. And I really, really hope Matt Rhule knows what he's doing when he looks at these players that are going to be returning and on the list. And let me read off some of these names that are on this list that could go into free agency real quick. Mario Addison, Trey Boston, Bradbury, Vernon Butler, Cockrell, Elliott, Hogan. We're not even going to talk about Wes Horton. Bruce Irvin, Kyle Love. We need Kyle Love. We need Kyle Love. Absolutely, we need Kyle Love. We're in desperate need of defensive tackle right now. Gerald McCoy, tackle Stacy McGee, which I'm not even familiar with him at all. Greg Van Roten and Daryl Williams. After watching most of this video, you pretty much know my feelings on these players. And you know whether... You kind of get the idea of whether I would suggest keeping these players or not. Some of them, yes. The players I think that we should keep right now are Mario Addison, Trey Boston, Bradbury, Cockrell, Chris Hogan. I still see some hope for him in the new system and spread RPO. I think Kyle Love, we need to keep Kyle Love. And I have no idea about Stacy McGee, so until I see more about Stacy McGee, I'm going to say no. That's what we're looking at right now. It does not look pretty, folks. You start building a franchise from the lines. You got to stop the sickness where it started. And left tackle is exactly where it started. From 2016, our problems went to tackle positions, both tackle positions. It then spread to center. It then spread to the wide receivers. Quarterback position already was a problem in the Super Bowl, if you consider the concussion that Cam got. Then it spread to the defense. Thomas Davis left. KK got injured, which means there was no pressure from the defensive line. We brought in McCoy. That wasn't enough. Corners were left on an island. When we switched to 3-4, Trey Boston, Shaq, Reed had to step up. So it spread back to the coaching staff in 2018 and 19. Right where part of it began. And the coaching staff led to laziness, bad play calling, bad clock management from 16 to 18, which Ron Rivera did fix. I'll give him that. He did fix the bad clock management. He's not aggressive enough on challenges. He's not aggressive enough on calling the refs out on bad calls. He just stood there like a statue on the sideline, and that's just not helpful for us. And, a good coach, you want to have discipline, you want to have execution, you want to have motivation, you want to have strength. And this team had none of that in 2019. That's what it degraded to. That's what it became. Slowly and dangerously, it became that. So, this is where we're at right now. Now, I'm gonna post a separate video on what players I think that we should look at keeping on this 2019 roster, 2020 roster now, going into this rebuild. And I'm going to go through the entire roster, brick by brick. And I'm going to tell you what I think we should keep versus what contracts we have, how long they are, everything. We're going to dive right into that in a separate video. That'll be coming in the next 2 weeks. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope this was informative and educational for you. And please do share this video so that other people can understand where we're at as a team. Thank you guys so very, very much. And keep pounding.